Dibley, and we're here today on Frock Talk Television with a fabulous guest and a woman who I deeply admire. There are those that we meet in our lifetime and we realize that we are sisters from another mother, if you will. And Brenda Hammon, who I'm going to introduce in a second, is one of those women. And she, like many, is out in the world working, being in service to society, being very productive, being very successful in a business, in the financial industry. And she carried inside her own deep, dark secrets. And it's only been in the last little while that Brenda has come out. She's written a book, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Why I admire Brenda so much is that often we let the stories define who we are. And even though she was wading knee deep in, you can fill in the blank here, she found a way to make a difference even before her story came out. And so for someone who lived a life in hiding herself and, in denial, I would say for myself, I really do admire this woman, and I am so thrilled to have her on this segment of Frock Talk Television. So without further ado, Brenda Hammon, welcome to today's segment. I'd love you to share, just a short, sort of a brief background of where you are as an entrepreneur.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
You're
Where
welcome.
am I at? We have our own business. We have several divisions underneath that business, and one of those is our publishing company, where we have published my own story. There'll be a few other stories for grandchildren, I've been told, Pinky the Poodle adventures and that sort of stuff. So I like being self-employed. I don't take direction well.
None of us do that are entrepreneurs.
That's probably the biggest thing, is I don't take direction well. So being self-employed is probably one of the best things that I could do for myself in that aspect.
And tell us a little bit about your book. Actually, can you hold it up? I think oftentimes people get a better visual. So keep holding that up for a second. I'd love you to share with us, while you've got the book in your hand, a little bit about, just a short synopsis of what your book is about.
My story is about sexual abuse that's hidden inside of families. And I think that is one of the biggest secrets that is never, ever talked about. It's shameful. You're embarrassed. You are terrified. And if you tell your story, will your family stand behind you, or will they toss you aside? And unfortunately, it happens more common that you are tossed aside. That brought shame onto the family because you've spoken. And instead of the abuser being the one that has shame brought on, it's the victim. And that needs to stop.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. And I think the other thing, the other point to that for yourself, for example, is for those of us that have been through anything like this, and those watching right now, for all of you viewers, is how much courage it takes to stand up for yourself, number one, to step into whatever that story is. Now, for some, like yourself and myself, we've shared our stories. It doesn't mean everyone has to, but there's a huge lesson in this. It's about taking courageous action to go to whatever it is that's pulling at you, tugging at you. So what was the catalyst? And thank you for showing us the book. What was the catalyst for you deciding enough is enough, it's time to share my story?
Several people have always said to me, you chart your life before you come into this world. And I thought to myself, if that is true, if that is truly true, why on earth did I chart all of this crap? Why did I, who in their right mind would do this? And I thought, I have to turn this very, very negative experiences into something positive. And the only thing that I could do in turning it into a positive was to share my story. And hopefully in sharing my story and putting it out there, that it will give other people that opportunity to say, you know what? I need to take back my life from my abusers. I need to live my full life and not the life that the abusers have so generously handed you at whatever time that had happened in your life. And I think that's when I decided I can't do this anymore. I can't carry these burdens and these shackles anymore.
No, and I think that changes everything when you decide that something has to change, and that you take that story and you stand on it rather than in it. And that's what I see with you all the time. I see you standing on your story to help others, you know, women, men, children, you know, whatever the case may be, to say it isn't your whole life, which is exactly the message of Frock Talk. Really, Frock Talk Television is about featuring, you know, everyday heroes, unsung heroes that are doing great things. Like, we have amazing people in Canada and the United States, you know, North America, on the planet, that are doing things that are making huge impact. But it's about reaching that market globally and letting people know they're not alone. Because for some, this will stay with them. It's not their calling to share their story. However, as soon as we learn to stand on it rather than in it, we change everything. So you mentioned earlier, you kind of alluded to the fact that some family members are not strong supporters. I would attest to this. I have seen the same thing, fallout from the shame and the guilt and the fear. And, you know, for myself, I did find it difficult at first to go it alone, so to speak, to share my story. Yeah. Have you encountered that same thing? And how did you manage to navigate the waters for your own mental and self-help?
I too had that big problem. My family kind of knew a little bit that something had happened, but it was always, don't talk about it. And when I brought it forward, even before I even wrote the book, it was swept underneath the carpet, don't talk about it. When I did the book, I wasn't quite sure how everybody was going to react. And my immediate family reacted quite harshly to it. I have cousins that reacted very favorably to it. So I decided that if I didn't have my family standing behind me before, what difference does it make now?
Yeah.
You know, they weren't there before. Now the line is drawn in the sand. I know exactly who's with me and who's against me. There's no more gray area. And I just had to decide that that was going to be okay.
And isn't it freeing to let the story out and let the chips fall where they may? Because, you know, I think it's actually very healing and cathartic to actually write our story when we know it's going to serve someone else. When we're writing it with the reader in mind, we're writing or sharing our message with the viewer in mind, we know that we can be the impact on the world. Because ultimately, the only reason anyone shares their story, typically with the, you know, at this level, is to be the change so that someone else doesn't have to go it alone. And that's, you know, that's one of the reasons I'm so drawn to your story. I think the other reason I'm so drawn to you and your story is mine was a stranger, and that's a very different situation. And I'm so happy that you do have the courage and you've done the work that needed to be done so that you can share it, because we know this is a common problem, sadly.
Yes.
The only way we're going to change it is to have conversation. And to me, you are a superhero. You are, you know, your cape is probably hidden underneath what you're wearing, but you are a superhero because you stood up and you said, enough's enough. We're going to change this by talking about it. And that, you know, that really is what Frock Talk Television is about. It's also what our 12 for 12 community is about. And for myself, it is such an honor and a privilege to work with you and to see you sharing your message to the world. What is the one thing you would say and leave with the viewers right now? You know, first, before we go there though, how do they get in touch with you? How do they reach out to you?
You can reach me on a website called spiritcreekpublishing.com. That's where the book is at, and you can actually do a comment and you can contact me that way. You can contact me via Facebook. Brenda Portwood is on Facebook in that aspect also. That's about the only ways you can contact.
Well, that's perfect. And we also have you on 12 for 12. So if they go to the Frock Off website, they can find you there as well. And we're going to be putting your interview up as well there. And so, obviously your goal is to be the change. I know it is, and I know how much you have done and given to already show that you're committed to making that happen, not just by sharing your story, but to act by all of the philanthropic things that you've done as well since I've known you. So I'm honored. Now, what is the one thing you could leave our viewers with that you think would be impactful for them based on the story that what you've gone through?
The biggest thing that I can say to anybody who has had this is to talk about it. You don't have to write a book. You don't have to advertise to the world what has happened to you, but you do need to talk about it inside your family. You do need to let the rest of your family know what has happened so that you can protect the future generations of the children inside your family from that abuser or those abusers that you had, because silence is deadly. It's a killing field for abusers. They stand in the corner and they pick off your children left, right, and center. And unless you stand up and say, this has happened to me, it's never going to stop.
I 100% agree. And just by putting it out there, you change that story. You disempower the person that has taken advantage of, and you instead empower future generations to be that legacy. Like, you are clearly living a legacy that you can affect your family. And it takes someone standing. Sometimes they do have to stand alone. So I am, as I mentioned, I admire you, I respect you, and it's an honor to have you on this segment. And before we say goodbye, I want to bring on our co-producer, without whom Frock Talk Television wouldn't even exist, everyone. This woman is the big brain behind Frock Talk Television. She does not take a compliment well, which is why I love her even more, because she is British and she does what's right and does it without any, and I'm just picking on her right now because she will never tell you how wonderful she is, but I will. And I know, Brenda, you've had an opportunity to work with Sue.
Yes,
as rock star. And Sue is really making all of this possible. She's bringing the messages that we have, these unsung heroes, everyday heroes, that are really superheroes in our midst. And if not for Sue and her technology, her ability, her talents, and her compassion and passion, this just wouldn't be happening. So I would like Sue to come on, just give a little snippet of who she is and what she does, and so that you all can learn to know, love, and trust this amazing woman, because she is a big brain. Just be ready. All right, my darling, no pressure, but Sue, take it away.
Oh, bless you, Joe. And Brenda, it's great to see you again. I'm really not going to talk about me. I just am going to talk about the fact that video and the web is the way to get your message out today. And I have a huge respect for both of you ladies. I haven't had the sexual abuse done to me that you've had. And Joe, as you say, yours was a predator. You, Brenda, had to deal with family sexual abuse. And Joe and I have an acquaintance who is on the same mission as both of you in terms of the Catholic Church and their serial abuse of both boys and girls. And what is interesting is that this acquaintance of Joe's and mine has already gone international with this. She started locally, as you both are doing. But she's recently come back from a trip to Poland where no one has, that's a different society and nobody has talked about this challenge. And by her going and talking there, it's like floodgates have opened. And what you're both saying of telling the story, the catharsis and the healing. So what I want to do with my video is promote your stories so that more people can come out of the shadows and can heal from the shit that they've had to put up with from folks who should know better, but I agree, always get away with it. And that's my passionate feel about it. So that's I want to help you folks spread your message far and wide.
And this applies everywhere. Whether it's in something that we're talking about that's deeply personal, Or, you know, the reality is to be sustainable, we need to get our message out there. And also, Brenda, I know you'd agree with this, to be able to be the change, we need to be able to talk about it. And I agree with you. It starts with that one conversation, maybe at that kitchen table. But if we want to impact, if this is our mission and our purpose, and I know, Brenda, you are on the same path as I, and so we need, Sue, with your technology and your talent, this is what changes everything. So I want, you know, I'm deeply grateful for both of you for being in my life and being part of the Frock Off movement, for being part of the community, and also for actually stepping up and saying yes. And I love, Sue, how you did not censor, because that is exactly what it is. It is exactly, like, we don't need to sugarcoat the crap that has happened. We don't need to sugarcoat it. We need to call it for what it is, and then we can do something about it. So, Sue, again, adore, respect, can't say enough about your big brain, but also your big heart. Brenda, for being with us and sharing your story. You are, as always, real, you're raw, you're relevant, and you're, you know, the authentic word's been used a lot in this world of the last 10 years, but I will say there's no doubt that you're authentic. There's no stopping you. It's, you know, it's just get ready. Here I come. So thank you for being with us on this segment, and we will see you soon. Please, 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 if you're watching this, make sure you reach out to these people. They are amazing. All of our everyday heroes are making a difference. And if you're interested in joining our mission, you can check that information out on frock-off, frock-off.com. Take care, have a great day, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.